Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatara Satasri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Canto 3, Chapter 13, texts 32, 33, 34, and 35. So the appearance of Lord Varaha is the title of the chapter. And Maitreya is narrating all of this to Vidura. This is in the early stages of creation. Lord Varaha has appeared from the nostril of Brahma because the demigods expressed to him their concern. The earth has fallen out of orbit, bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. He's manifested the form, plunged into the Garbhodak ocean to rescue the earth. Hiranyaksha challenges him, and text 31. Well, text 30, which is where we ended last time. Lord Vor has entered the earth, piercing the water with his hooves, found the earth, the resting place for all living beings, lying as it was in the beginning of creation, and he personally lifted it. That was last. So now, 31, no purport for these two. Excuse me. 31 is where we ended up. Lord Vor very easily took the earth on his tusks and got it out of the water. Thus he appeared very splendid. Then, his anger glowing like the Sudarshan wheel, he immediately killed the demon Hiranyaksha, although Hiranyaksha tried to fight with the Lord. So text 32. Thereupon Lord Vor killed the demon within the water. Now the previous verse says he got the earth out of the water. Now he's killing the demon within the water, just as a lion kills an elephant. The cheeks and tongue of the Lord became smeared with the blood of the demon, although he's in the water. Just as an elephant becomes reddish from digging in the purple earth. Text 33. Then the Lord, playing like an elephant, suspended the earth on the edge of his curved white tusks. He assumed a bluish complexion, like that of a tamal tree, and thus the sages, headed by Brahma, could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offered respectful obeisances unto the Lord. The next two verses are those praises. Earlier verses, when the Lord appeared from the nostril of Brahma and became huge very quickly, big as an elephant. So he could understand, the sages could understand. There were some prayers where they also understood. Now, having killed Hiranyaksha, it's stating it again, they've understood. Earlier, there's this purport from Jiva Goswami's commentary that says there's forms of Lord Varaha in different manus. One is a Sweta Varaha, another is a Rakta Varaha, and Jiva Goswami has combined the two. That was already described. Now here, in this verse, it's saying he assumed a bluish complexion. No purport, no explanation, just white ink form or the red form, and here he's assuming a bluish complexion. The understanding we are given by Jiva Goswami is Maitreya is not distinguishing this incarnation, that incarnation of Varaha. He's blending them together. So in any case, the sages have recognized this demon Hiranyaksha has been killed. One who could do that only is the personality of Godhead, plus all the other things that are indications to them of he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So 2 verses. Oh, unconquerable, enjoyer of all sacrifices, Ajita, he's addressed as, and the enjoyer of sacrifices, same as Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yogitapasam. All glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form of the personified Vedas. And in the hair holes of your body, the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar. The next verse is saying more of the same. This form is a form of the Vedas. So the Vedas are sound. And those sounds can appear in a written form as they are in Kali Yuga, but prior to the written form, that's just sound. And sound, Vedic sound, has form. And in this case, the form that's being manifest is the form of Lord Varaha. It's not that the form of Varaha is an imaginary form or a temporary form or material form as the impersonalists would have it. We'll hear. Purport. The Lord can assume any form he likes, and in all circumstances, he is the cause of all causes. Since his form is transcendental, he is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as he is in the causal ocean, in the form of Mahavishnu. Innumerable universes generate from the holes of his bodily hairs, and thus his transcendental body is the Vedas personified. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and he is the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is never to be misunderstood to be other than the Supreme Lord because of his assuming the form of a boar to lift the earth. That is the clear understanding of sages and great personalities like Brahma and other residents of the higher planetary systems. Text 35. O Lord, your form is worshipable by performances of sacrifice, but souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in the touch of your skin. In your bodily hairs is the kusha grass. In your eyes is the clarified butter. And in your forelegs, you are the four kinds of fruitive activities. Purport. There is a class of miscreants who are known in the words of Bhagavad Gita as Vedavadi, or so-called strict followers of the Vedas. They do not believe in the incarnation of the Lord, or to speak of the Lord's incarnation as the worshipable hog. They describe worship of the different forms or incarnations of the Lord as anthropomorphism. In the estimation of Srimad Bhagavatam, these men are miscreants. And in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, they are called not only miscreants, but also fools, and the lowest of mankind. And it is said that their knowledge has been plundered by illusion due to their atheistic temperament. For such condemned persons, the Lord's incarnation as the gigantic hog is invisible. These strict followers of the Vedas who despise the eternal forms of the Lord may know from Srimad Bhagavatam that such incarnations are personified forms of the Vedas. Lord bore's skin, his eyes, and his bodily hair holes are all described here as different parts of the Vedas. He is therefore the personified form of the Vedic hymns, specifically the Gayatri mantra. We're accustomed to hearing that the Vedas are emanations from Narayana or Krishna, the breathing of the Supreme Lord. And as he is eternal, they're co-eternal. So the Vedas are that sound vibration. And the sound vibration is indicating something. It's indicating transcendence. And even more specifically, transcendence in the form of one of the Lord's transcendental forms. The sound vibration, say it again, the sound vibration is not metaphorically represented by the, here in this case, the form of Lord Varaha, but forms of the Lord. Say it, same thing another way. The Vedas are revealing the forms of the Lord. The Vedas are the forms of the Lord, or the forms of the Lord are the Vedas. It's personified Vedas. Now, Canto 10, Chapter 87. There's prayers by the personified Vedas. And the personified Vedas are honoring the Supreme Lord. Or in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's a description of various personified Vedas having disagreement. They don't reach consensus about the absolute truth. Something like it's spoken of here, you know, the karma kanda performers. Because that's the verse that's in 242 Bhagavad Gita. Veda Vadi is the reference here. Veda Vada Rata they're engaged in Veda Vada. So Vada means doctrine, and Veda is the Vedas. Veda, Vada, Vata, they're engaged. So they're persons that are followers of the Vedas. So Prabhupada has accurately translated this as the so-called followers of the Vedas. That is to say, so-called because they commonly consider exactly what Krishna says, and is true. The purpose of the Vedas is promotion to heavenly planets, and there's nothing more. That's karma kanda. The largest portion of the Vedas is karma kanda, and strict followers of karma kanda say that's all there is performance of good karma. Just like Krishna spoke karma vimamsa philosophy to Nanda Maharaj prior to the Govardhan Leela, and that's what those folks say. There's only one thing: do good work. And whether there's an Ishvara that's dispensing the fruits of good work or not, if there is an Ishvara, above the Ishvara is this requirement of karma, and so he dispenses according to that which is higher than him. And if not, then that's okay too. So we don't really need God in the picture. You just do good karma. So the Veda Vadis, they propitiate demigods. They appeal to Ganesh to remove the obstacles in achieving. But so behind that, that pantheism idea, there's worship. There's this besides the idea of there's many gods, then there's moksha, and then it's the gods disappear, or they're quite insignificant. The real thing is the undifferentiated Brahman. But those that are followers of the Vedas, the Veda Vadis, they don't recognize, or here it said, the form of the Lord is invisible to them. That is to say, just like they can go in a temple and see the deity, but they don't see the deity. They see something material, wood, stone, or metal. They don't see the deity and the transcendental aspect. Like Hiranyaksha, he saw Lord Varaha and he thought, oh, he's a living being like me. I have more mystic powers than anybody, so I'll feed him. He didn't see, as the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and the sages are seeing. So what they're seeing is the personified form of the Vedas. So this terminology, the personified form of the Vedas and the Vedas personified, they sound like the same thing, but there's different manifestations or different aspects. There's personified Vedas. In Brihat Bhagavatamrita, there's a certain section of the Vedas. They don't engage in this debate back and forth between this group of Vedas and that group of Vedas. They don't indulge in it. Because their understanding is the Supreme Personality Godhead. That's the ultimate objective. The form of the Lord, His pastimes, qualities, etc. But some portions of the Vedas don't highlight that. So in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, they're having this heated discussion. And they don't agree. And certain portions of the personified Vedas, they're looking the other way. They're not interested. And then when they're asked, they explain why is it they're not interested in this debate. Because the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality Godhead who has form. The Vedas are disclosing that. But some, even Vedas, don't understand all that. So that's this one aspect of the personified Vedas. Then over here is another aspect of the personified Vedas is, in fact, the form of the Lord. And forms have different parts. So, as Mahavishnu, from the body, from the pores of his body come universes, here it's being said, because Mahavishnu, the avatars, in this case it's one of the Leela avatars, appears as an expansion of Vishnu, right? So, as Mahavishnu generates universes from the pores of his skin, here all the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in the touch of your skin. And then the different aspects of Vedic sacrifice, kusa, grass, and ghee, the hairs and the eyes, etc. All the different parts of the body of Lord Varaha, or the body of the Supreme Lord. These parts are portions of the Vedas. And then the whole of the Vedas gives the whole form of the Lord. And then there's Gayatri Mantra, specifically mentioned here. What is Gayatri Mantra doing? Well, it depends on which school you're from. Some say, and some say, and some say. The Gayatri is worship of the sun. That's why Trisandhyam. Or some say Gayatri is indicating the impersonal Brahman. So those persons chant Gayatri Mantra with that view in mind. And we find, read carefully and you'll find, that Bharat, Maharaj, when he gave up the kingdom and went to the forest and so on, he was absorbed in chanting Gayatri Mantra, worshipping the personality who's the presiding Lord of the sun, Surya Narayan. Narayan. From Vaishnavas, the Gayatri Mantra is worship of Narayan. So it's one mantra that is seen in different ways by different persons. One is something material, worship the sun. Another is it's worshipping the sun god. Another is it's worshipping impersonal Brahman. Another is worshipping Narayana, who's presiding in the sun planet, Surya Narayan. That's the school that we're receiving our understanding from Srimad Bhagavatam and other sources, because Bhagavatam is a commentary on Gayatri, among other things. So what's Gayatri revealing? The personality of Godhead. So Gayatri, revealing the personality of Godhead, is within in the touch of Lord Varaha's body, and other mantras, because Gayatri is the mother of all mantras. So all of that is detail in detail. Supposing someone doesn't understand all that detail for some reason, they don't have the BBT Srimad Bhagavatam with commentary of our acharyas. Still, just hearing the form of the Lord, hearing the description of this form of the Lord and the pastimes of the Lord, the name of the Lord, there's enormous spiritual upliftment and purification involved. But further is needed the explanation of the acharyas. we need that mercy of the acharyas and direction of the acharyas to get the full picture. And then one can see the Lord. And in contrast, those that are so-called followers of the Vedas, they cannot see. They see something, but they don't see. Pashyati na pashyati. They see, but they don't see. The sages see, and they see. They understand karma kanda is not, that's all there is and there's nothing more. It's not just Vedic. Karma kanda is a principle. So whether it applies to those who are studying the Vedas, karma kanda has its place in other forms of worship. I've experimented. The purpose of the Bible, same idea. It's a karma kanda idea for many people. What's that? Live a pious life. Abide by the injunctions found within the Bible, including thou shalt not kill, so people don't, they're not abiding by the injunctions. So abide by the injunctions, and by that you'll have piety. By that piety you'll prosper in this life and go to heaven. Now, same idea. Now they don't have a clear idea that there's a distinction between heaven and the kingdom of God. It's not, that's not a subject that they know anything about. It's just their teachers don't teach it. They teach, go to heaven. They don't teach that it's a temporary place and you'll fall back down again, and ultimately heaven is also destroyed when the universe is destroyed. That's a detail that they don't hear because they're just interested in heaven, elevation to heavenly planets. So it's not just followers of the Vedas, it's a principle. You know, and so forth. Followers of Islam, same. So, and frankly, the interesting, creative way that Pure Land Buddhism is taught and followed, it's almost the same. It's karma kanda. Although that's not what the teaching says. I have a lot to say about that. But back to the Bhagavatam. The sages, they do understand. And Brahma and the sages are explaining this form of the Lord, not something material. As the Vedas are transcendental, the form of the Lord is transcendental. The form of the Lord is the resting place of the Vedas. It's revealed by the Vedas. It's not different than the Vedas. The form of the Lord is the personification of the Vedas. Not symbolic, but literal. Form of the Vedas. Personified Vedas. With different parts. The persons that are offering their prayers, they're engaged in knowing, reciting, and following the Vedas. The recitation of the Vedas has a purpose, and they understand the purpose. Many people that may follow Scripture, they don't understand the purpose. Isn't it? Abundant. They don't understand the. Find people that follow, that's one thing, But follow for what purpose? To follow properly and to know the purpose, one needs teachers with proper disciplic succession. And otherwise, teachers are misleaders. And thus, the language that's here in the purport is miscreants, knowledge stolen by illusion, rascal. There's this apology that Prabhupada made to God brothers, that when Prabhupada was departing from this world, he said, I used this word too much. Rascal. Even professors that respected Prabhupada because he used to be respected would sit at his feet and he would use the rascal word. And they would say, Swamiji, you can say misguided, or say softer. Mistaken. And then Prabhupada would smile and say, this is summation of mistaken, they're rascals. He would smile and laugh, and they would smile and laugh. They were being called rascals, and they were smiling. Not everybody was smiling, but some, because they understood the exalted nature, they didn't necessarily accept the literal essence that they're rascals. But the Vedas are clear, but we don't use that kind of language because he can get away with it. Prabhupada said, I can speak the way that I speak because I'm elderly. You can't. We shouldn't imitate. But he wanted to separate reality from illusion, and so he would use a sharp sword. And he had the spiritual potency, and he said, at least, because I'm an old man, I can say these things. No, I'm getting older, but I can't say those things either. But some, an important feature is separating reality from illusion. And the form of Lord Viraha, amongst even all the forms of the Lord, gosh. There's this nice, elaborate discussion found in Ray of Vishnu, the life of Bhaktisiddhanta, where one American professor went all the way to India because he had heard about Bhaktisiddhanta just to meet Bhaktisiddhanta and present questions because he was a scholar and he wanted to understand different things. So he went to that authority. And one of the things he asked was, why do you worship these forms that are a tortoise and a fish and a boar, and could you explain? No, really detailed, elaborate, high-level explanation, and Professor Southers was stunned. He didn't know what to say. No, if I've read it, and it's hard to understand. Being, a Hare Krishna practitioner for so many years, it's hard to understand. What to speak of a professor who's academically qualified, but doesn't have faith, it doesn't have sadhana, it doesn't have a lot of things. How are such persons going to understand? So that's what's being said here. They cannot see. They can see, but they cannot see. So how can we see? Through the purification process of bhakti. And Srimad Bhagavatam is hearing it, narrating it, remembering it, trying to understand, not in a mundane way, but in a spiritual way. These are means of purification. So, as bhakti purifies our existence, then we can start to understand and start to see in a proper way. That's the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam. It qualifies for us for understanding that which is otherwise incomprehensible. So land there, see if there's some discussion. Lord Maharaja. Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. On the point of that Pashyati, Napashyati, I was having this experience multiple times as we were reading Ishopanishad as part of Bhakti Shastri study, especially the philosophic section where difference between different kinds of knowledge, different kinds of upasana. When I hear, it feels that I got it and then it just evaporates.
It's unsteady bhakti. Krishna's mercy, you get a glimpse. And bhakti's not steady yet. Keep going.
Particularly in those moments, especially for reading scriptures, it just gets a little shaken when, I mean, the whole point of Ishopanishad is the Lord is beyond my mental speculation or my limited understanding. But
But I'm inclined to speculation. So we hit a wall. And sometimes, though the curtain opens and the curtain closes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Krishna's mercy. Keep going. Anything else?
Hey Krishna Maharaj, I was asked a question in relation to Ishopanishad. Ishopanishad is part of Vedas.
Yes.
And there are verses which speak in third person, like, "Oh Lord, please remove your abundance," as a devotee or a person. So if the Lord is speaking, if the Vedas are coming from the Lord, how come it's in third person?
It's not a problem. Everything comes from the Lord, including the personified Vedas and the Vedas. Everything comes from the Lord. Not a problem. So, Arjuna said, did it come from the Vedas? Not just Ishopanishad. Anything Radha said. How's that? Maitreya said, Shukadeva Swami said, everything comes from. So, Parashar said, so where does everything come from is the absolute truth, and the absolute truth can be revealed through different methods according to the choice of the absolute truth. So the personified Veda is speaking this way. And where does the personified Veda come from? From the source of everything. Not a problem. There's a cause of all causes. So that Ishopanishad is speaking in third person. And that cause has a cause. Not a problem.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. One of the Bhakti Viksha member, she previously belonged to an organization called Gayatri Parivar.
Okay.
Yes. And she's very much attached to the Gayatri mantra.
Okay, great.
And during the discussion, I explained to her that it is very powerful mantra, without offending her, like it is very powerful mantra, and you should only strive for purification by chanting Hare Krishna before you do Gayatri mantra. Is that the right explanation, Maharaj?
Well, I would say it a little bit differently. If you really want to understand Gayatri Mantra, it requires purification. And the purification comes in this age through the name of the personality of Godhead. So focus your attention on the name, and then you'll be able to understand Gayatri Mantra. Of course, there's some other elements, how the name, along with teachings how to live your life according to the style of theistic conduct. Those two. But just, you can get access to that which is a mystery. Otherwise. And you may find a teacher that says this, and then you'll find another teacher that says that, and you find another teacher that says another thing, and they disagree. So, what's the real understanding? For you to get you to have the realization of the real understanding, the purification is required. So it's not don't do that, do this. It's the qualification for that which you have faith in is this. And you can have access. It directly awakens bhakti, and through bhakti one can then understand the absolute truth, which is presented in the Gayatri Mantra, but one will not have access. Just like the Vedas, who will have access to the Vedas without bhakti? Who will have access to the absolute truth without bhakti? And this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is specifically awakening bhakti, that I wish to be engaged in your service. That's bhakti. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's an extension to Maharaja's question earlier. So when we read scriptures or study the pastimes of the Lord, sometimes the light bulb goes on in us, like the realization.
Yeah.
Now, how do I differentiate between am I speculating or it's truly in?
Well, the speculation, you hold it up to the light of Scripture. And if it matches, then it's not speculation. And if it doesn't match, it's speculation. Guru Sadhu Shastra. That's what we do. That's our test. Is that right?
And sometimes the realization we get may not be clearly what the Acharya has been explaining, or what is in the purport or anything like that. Especially when we talk about pastimes.
Well, it may not be specific to, the Vaishnava commentary on this particular pastime. It's just if there's some experience, quote, realization, is it speculation or is it Krishna's disclosing truths about himself? Same answer, Guru Sadhu Shastra. That's our litmus test. And if it's a match, it doesn't have to be specific to, did the Acharyas comment your realization on this particular pastime? Just in principle. I'll give a little example. This is just something that recently occurred. There's devotee, lives in Nasik. He's part of the Shastra Advisory Committee. Have you heard of that? SAC, S-A-C. So he has begun translating a commentary of a number of chapters from Canto 10, Srimad Bhagavatam, written by somebody that I've never heard of before. Hari Suri, S-U-R-I. Hari Suri. So it's kind of, it's a buzz out there in the ISKCON world. So I wanted to find out what's going on, because I'd never heard of Hari Suri before. So, little interaction with the person who's doing the translation work. And it turns out that Hari Suri was initiated in the line of Tukaram. And it was, there's lots of information, but I'm just keeping it simple. Prabhupada writes in the preface of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, that Tukaram received initiation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, there's about 200 years difference of time between Tukaram's life and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. So how did that initiation take place? Well, according to Tukaram's autobiography, I'm giving you some detail about, how do you know is this? So Tukaram writes in his autobiography that in a vision he received mantra from, he doesn't say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's something, something, something Chaitanya. A couple hundred years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world. And then this Hari Suri is in the line of Tukaram. So Prabhupada confirms, later in the Bhagavatam he says, no, it was in Chaitanya Charitamrita, excuse me, some people say, it's in his purport, some people say Tukaram was initiated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on tour. And when he went to Pandharpur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent some days, and there he initiated Tukaram. Some people say, but there's 200 years difference. So it's not during that tour. So how do we understand? And it's just because Prabhupada in the preface says Tukaram was initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's, on what authority does Prabhupada say? I don't question on what authority Prabhupada says. He's Krishna's representative, that's sufficient. He wouldn't have said without some authority. What the detail of that authority is, I don't know. If I was asked, I don't know, is the answer. But that's sufficient for me. Then this translation work, so the devotee who's doing the translation work says, I've not found anything that deviates, that's impersonal or karmakanda-ish or anything in his commentary. So it's in line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's acharyas. Now, then another question was, how come if he wrote this, some long time ago, why are more contemporary acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhusam, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Bhaktisiddhanta made no mention of this authorized acharya, commentator on the Bhagavatam? Why not? And then the answer that was supplied, because I don't know, but what he wrote wasn't available to the world until some time later, because this happens in the world, his writings came into the world. It was around the time of, it was after the time of Bhakti-Vinod and around the time of Bhaktisiddhanta. So Bhaktisiddhanta is the only acharya that could have commented, and he didn't comment. But that explains why so much time passed and other great acharyas didn't, because his writings were just not known. Hari Suri in Sanskrit. So now there's an ISKCON devotee that's translating them under the authority of his spiritual master, Radha Govinda Maharaj, to do. And so, how do we know this is authentic? How do we know that? Because he expresses a number of very interesting things, but how do we know those interesting things are authentic? We don't just say anything because it's interesting. We want to know Guru Sadhu Shastra. So it conforms with Shastra. It's not, there's no inconsistency with Shastra. And our great acharyas is not inconsistent with. And he's in this disciplic succession, according to Prabhupada, of Lord Chaitanya, although not well known for reasons mentioned. Now, I don't know if the followers of Tukaram accept that Sri Krishna Chaitanya was his guru. They probably have a different idea. They probably have multiple different ideas. Just like our discussion last night about multiple Ramayanas out there. And some are authentic and some are not. So how do you know? It's a similar question to how do we know we have some realization. Is it realization or speculation? That's our... To be able to comment on Srimad Bhagavatam, one has to receive knowledge through disciplic succession. Like the Sri Vaishnava commentators. I'm just elaborating on the point. The Sri Vaishnava commentators is coming from Yamunacharya. No, he's a personality whose credential we don't question. And Ramanujacharya, whose credential we don't question. He's in that disciplic line. And other great acharyas prior to our life, they accept him in that way. So, these commentators, are they consistent with Ramanujacharya's teachings? Well, I'm not knowledgeable in all of Ramanujacharya's teachings. But within his sampradaya, they confirm. So, I'm okay with repeating the words of those great acharyas in the Ramanuja line for those reasons. So it's the same point, Guru Sadhu Shastra. And be careful, cautious, especially when it's us. Because we know what our lack of credential is. If it doesn't conform. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. You have something? You have something? Oh, I'm sorry. She had saw her hand before. Go ahead.
My name is Maharaja. I was wondering why is the Gayatri chanted softly and like it should not be chanted loudly? Why is it that way?
Why we don't chant Gayatri loudly?
Yeah.
That you want to know?
Yeah.
It's a particular rule for Vedic mantra. Vedic mantra is not to be heard by persons who are not qualified to receive Vedic mantra. So it's chanted silently or murmur so that only the person reciting can hear. Say negatively, the potency is lost. So we chant silently. Now people don't know that, and they don't follow that, and do it. So the potency is not experienced by that back of your Gayatri lady. So, okay? Now, last question. We're going to end after this.
Hare Krishna. The Vedas are like Apaurishaya, and then it's the form of the Lord, personification of the Lord. And why is the majority of the Vedas are like dealing with Karma Kanda?
Why people follow Karma Kanda?
No, majority of the Vedas.
Speak slowly. Why?
Majority of the Vedas.
Majority of the Vedas are Karma Kanda, and why? That's what you want to know? That's where the majority of people are at. I want to enjoy. So, here's how you enjoy. By taking that which comes from Narayana, submit yourself to some authority that's above you, and go for it. As a gradual purification method for the majority of people. You know, the base of the pyramid is really big compared to the top of the pyramid. So it's for people that have that inclination to be enjoyers, and this will help them connect that enjoying inclination with some higher authority who they approach for fulfillment of their desire to enjoy. It's the step in the ladder.
The purpose is different.
The purpose is to connect them. Ultimately, the purpose is to connect them with the personality of Godhead. They're not ready for that. If in the performance of the Karma Kanda Yajna, the bhokta of the yajna is first invoked, that's a good step in the right direction. Is it clear?
I was just thinking it's a personification of the form of the Lord. Like the Vedas are the form of the Lord. So I was just thinking, is there any conflict in that?
No. The Lord is very merciful. He's engaging people in restoring their remembrance of Him and their attraction for Him in a way that's appropriate for the people He's extending Himself to. It's not a conflict or inappropriate. Is that? You know, you're a father, and your desire for your dependent children is way up here, and their interest may be way down here. So you don't just like say, forget the way down here. You deal with the way down here stuff while you're being very patient and helping them come up here. Lord's very merciful. He wants us up here. But He's providing that which will help them get to that place. According to their, their mentality, their interests, their attachments, their enjoying spirit. Very understandable. Okay, we're going to end there. Shiva Prabhupada Ki Jai.